Hi, good morning and welcome. It's Gene from Avstar. Well, this is what the American people voted for. We're looking at the S&P 500, which is the 500 largest companies in the United States, and as you can see, it's tanking. And it's tanking from a specific date, and we know why that is, because someone comes into power in November and starts writing all these executive orders, threatening other countries that, they're going to have tariffs put on their exports to the United States. And, well, this is the result of it. The retaliatory tariffs come back to America, and it harms the top 500 or the top largest 500 companies in America. And this is going to continue. And the reason why I say we know who's done it is because there is no mistake in it. If you look at the day chart, you look at the week chart, you look at the 1 month chart, you can see when this started. It started when Donald Trump started to write his executive orders. If I go back 5 years, look at that. Right on the end there is that downward dip in the S&P 500. I could go back a year. It's still visible on all of these, which is really unusual. Usually you have to select a particular time and period for it to show a trend, but you can see the trend in all of them. We'll go back 1 month, you can see there, 5 days, and then if we look at 1 day, there you go. It's the same story. No matter what date you choose to look at it, there is that, that dive off at the end. And that can only represent the big mistakes that Donald Trump is making. Now, I mentioned that these tariffs were taxes, and lots of top economists are talking about it more so now than ever, agreeing pretty much with what my analysis was of this. A tariff is a tax, and the only person that's going to harm is the Americans. Now, Donald Trump was furious yesterday when the European Union put a 50% tariff on bourbon and whiskey. And he said he was going to return the favour by putting 200% tariffs on the European Union, on their wine and champagne. And he said the American companies are going to do a really great job of, benefiting from, those exports that clearly won't be coming in, because I can't see anybody paying, a 200% tariff apart from the very rich on champagne from France and fine wines from Europe. Well, I'll just say this. From what I can gather, America isn't a very successful producer of champagnes. It's more like sparkling wine, I think people would say. And, they're not a very good wine producer. And I don't think they're going to benefit from that. And, if the tariffs extend to vehicles as well, Americans are very fond of European cars like BMWs, Audis, Mercedes-Benz, Porsche, and all the other European cars that are made in Europe that are exported into America. They're not going to be driving them. They're going to have to put up with cars that haven't had tariffs imposed on the countries that are manufactured in those countries. So, Donald Trump is literally making a life for the Americans a lot worse than he is making it better. And, on top of that, he's insulting his neighbours. He has been clearly told by Greenland to fuck off by one of their ministers. And he even used those words. He says, in not too many words, Donald Trump, fuck off. You're not having Greenland. And, Canadians have said the same. Only thing is that they feel now that Donald Trump is very serious about all these tariffs and very serious about trying to annex Canada and make it the 51st state. And the way he's going about it is he's trying to cripple the Canadian economy. And he's trying to bully them into the fact that America will not come to their aid if they fall in trouble around, in the global spheres. If ever there is trouble that comes to Canadian shores, that America won't fund them because, they're just they'd rather Canada be the 51st state. The tariffs would disappear, the taxes would be lower, and they would have security from the American armed forces. But it's an insult to Canadians to suggest that. They are very proud and happy with their sovereign country, and they are happy to be Canadians, not Americans, and they don't want to be a state of America. They want to be a country like they've enjoyed for many, many decades. So, I'm just suggesting here that if you're an American, that, the least you should be doing before some of these tariffs actually really do start to bite in, because it's going to come to your living room, guys, over there. And it will be the American people that feel it. The hard working that will lose their jobs. If that country relies on exports, if that company that you work for at the moment relies on exports, well, the tariffs are going to be placed on America, and you won't be able to sell those goods in at least the quantities that you've been accustomed to. So that will lead to more job losses. But not only that, when you go into the shop to buy your groceries, you're going to find that your groceries are going to come in at now probably 25% or even more for your usual household groceries. And I know America said that they don't, they can be energy sufficient. They don't have to rely on anyone else. But that is another option that Canada can put on America, and they can cut the electric off, and they can cut the oil. And, I wouldn't be surprised if they did that now, because now it would hurt America, because, they are out in the Gulf of Mexico. I know that America now call it the Gulf of America, towing drilling rigs out there in the hope that they can add an extra 300,000 barrels a day to their already, their production that they have already. But at the moment, they don't. So if Canada does decide to cut the power off and cut the oil, well, then your energy costs are going to go up, and the fuel at the pump station is going to go up if it hasn't already. So yes, you may have voted for Donald Trump, but the result of that is what you are seeing right now, and it hasn't reached any equilibrium yet. It's still dropping. There's a big chunk of the S&P shares of those 500 largest companies in the United States missing. And it was missing since, the time that Donald Trump started to write out his executive orders. I mean, if we look what happened to Tesla stocks when Donald Trump started to write out, his executive orders, they have tanked as well. And not only that, the people that are angry with the administration in the White House right now and their performance up to date, albeit 6 or so weeks, what we're seeing is people attacking, burning, Tesla vehicles and showrooms, etc. This is not how you attain world peace. I mean, Donald Trump has failed on a numerous amount of things. Just to mention one, I will end the Ukraine and Russia war in 24 hours. 6 weeks later, still going on, and a rejection from the peace treaty yesterday, the ceasefire. So, not very many wins for Donald Trump, and, more losses coming in as we speak, and as the weeks go on. We will continue to see the stock market, with regards to the S&P 500, fall even further. And we are going to see a trend come from Donald Trump of further escalating tariffs, rubbing up all of his friends and allies the wrong way. And like I said, this could lead to the isolation of an America. And I think that would be a total shame and an immense loss for the American people, because, you know, these trade deals have been going for many, many, many years. And, you know, the Americans, as well as the rest of the world, have, you know, benefited from them. If they end and America does isolate itself, it won't be a very nice place for Americans. And anyone else that is affected by the tariffs. You know, it doesn't affect politicians, any of this. It only affects the people. And most of the people voted Donald Trump in to get a grip on the inflation, you know, so that the familyhood could have more spending power, you know, with their month's salaries that they earn. And at this present moment, you know, they've had quite the opposite. And they are going to see the true fallout of these tariffs over the coming months. So my advice to them is, you know, those expensive things that you rely on every month, if you can, you know, at this point in time, stockpile them. You know, get them in while you can, and at least you'll have them for a little bit longer than the average person. And, you know, you're going to have to ride out the storm. Something has to change, because this is not how you run a country. And I know that the American people wanted a change. They wanted the corruption to stop because they knew it was. And of course, you can't blame them for asking for that. But what they're getting is something quite ugly. And, you know, it could lead to what, you know, was famously muttered in Davos. You know, you will have nothing and you'll be happy. Well, you know, the Americans are rapidly approaching that point in time. You know, as is the rest of the world. I mean, if you think it's just all about the Americans, it's not. What happened as a result of Donald Trump's tariffs in China led to a massive exodus of businesses from China, leaving China, putting all their equipment up on ships, sailing it to Vietnam and setting up shop there. And they also took some of the staff with them as well. So, you know, Donald Trump is really stirring murky waters at the moment, and he's not just affecting his own country, but he's also affecting other countries as well. And I think it's greedy what he's doing. He's asking other countries where manufacturing are, you know, manufacturing in, he's asking them to come to America to avoid tariffs and taxes and whatever. And in that, it will create more jobs for Americans. But at the same time, it will devastate other people's economies when they lose their blue chip companies. You know, those employers that employ thousands of people. And, you know, that is just treachery, you know. But this is the nature of business. You know, they say if you've got a conscience, you ain't going to be a rich person. Or you're not going to be a very successful business person. You know, because you've got to have the mindset of, you know, not worrying about treading on people's heads in order to cross a river. You know, you can walk across the people that are drowning. That's the sort of mindset that these rich people have. That the poorer people don't. You know, we try and help each other as much as we can, to the point of, you know, where it becomes a detriment to ourselves and our families, and we have to help our families first, as someone said in the comment section. So I'll leave you with them thoughts. You know, I'll be interested in what you think. There's a link down there if you want to help support us. Entirely up to you. And there's a link there if you want to become one of our patrons. And I'll say exactly what I do normally. You know, you take care of your loved ones, as always. Bye for now.